story on people that have survived and have beaten cancer. And it's about creating awareness, and it's a fundraiser to raise money for hospitals, but it's also to create the awareness out there that there is a life for those people who have suffered cancer. There is a life after. There is an opportunity to partake in sport. There is an opportunity to get their lives back on track again. We welcome Liam O'Neill, our Uachtaráin Cumann Cascade, who's taken a lot of time out of his busy schedule to be with us. Special guests, Michael Dwyer, Charlotte Nan, and a lot of players who have come this morning as well, obviously taking time out of a busy schedule as well, and we've got some members of the press here as well. So I suppose my job as MC is to relate. Another man that was supposed to be here this morning was Brian Cody, and he passes on his apologies on the basis where he actually leaving cert morning this morning, so he felt he couldn't come away from the school because a lot of parents and kids will be around the school. So he sends his apologies, but he has also said that he will be one of the managers next year when this game takes place. The only question mark that I have for the organisers, I believe, is a game of football. So I was trying to check the records last night. Where does Brian Cody qualify as a manager for football? But I suppose the good news if you're from Kilkenny is that he will still be a manager in 2014, on what may happens over the next number of weeks and next number of months. Right, he will be a manager in some capacity. Charlotte Nan, I believe, had a great left foot coming up over Clare from a football point of view. But Jar, as everybody knows as well, would have had his own time with leukemia and cancer over the last number of years as well. And like there was a time, I suppose, when it first came to him, that the foot bagels were passing Charlotte Nan out in the hills. I believe now that Jar is a couple of yards ahead of now at all stages, and that he is back very, very strong, back fit and healthy, which is great to see as well. And obviously, legend that he is, Michael Dwyer being here with us as well. I mean, when you get people of that calibre to lend their support to some events like that, it makes it very, very worthwhile. Richard, come forward and just say a few words, Richard.
Thank you, Tomas. My name is Richard Poole. You're all very welcome today. My journey began in 2007 when I left professional training and team in St James's Hospital, where I was there for 16 days. For the surgery took place, and the care and the treatment I received there was brilliant. From there I went to St Luke's Hospital where I met Professor Hollywood and his team. I did 36 days in and out of there for my treatment, and the treatment Professor Hollywood gave me was brilliant. And the treatment he's given to people of Ireland is brilliant. And that's the reason we wanted to honour this cup in his name. And also to show people there is life after cancer, and to raise money for these 2 brilliant hospitals. Once again, I want to say to you all, thanks very much for coming today and putting your weight behind us and helping me. Thanks a lot, and John.
No, I mean, Vico would know this. I did come on as a sub in the 1985 Munster Senior Football Final in Killarney against Kerry. I came on with 15 minutes to go, and my job was to go on Paddy O'Shea and try and get a goal off of Paddy O'Shea. But I can tell you now, God rest him, the only thing I got off of Paddy that day was his jersey after the match. I think it was a good swap. I gave him my number 26 and he gave me his number 2, and I did follow Paddy that year. That was back in 1985, and Kerry went to Dublin that year. There was a great relationship between the Cork hurlers and the Kerry footballers at the time. We used to meet on trips, and we went to Croke Park that year, and Kerry, as they would in All-Ireland final, with massive support, but they were playing against the Dubs. And I remember standing in hit 16, and Paddy O'Shea was marking a guy from Dublin called Joe McNally. And Joe McNally, if anybody knew, was about 16, 17 stone at the time. And as they were standing for the national anthem, right, Joe McNally came up behind Paddy O'Shea and he gave him a right knee up the arse. And whispered into his ears, and he says to Paddy, he says, "Well, Paddy," he said, "how did you come up this morning? Was it by bus or by train?" So Paddy said nothing, and yet the ball was thrown in. 2 minutes into the game, there was Joe McNally stretchered on the ground, right, and a couple of the St John's ambulance running out with the stretcher and putting Joe onto the stretcher. And as he was going, Paddy went over to him and whispered into his ear, "Well," he says, "Joe, what hit you? Was it the bus or the train?" So, without further ado, right, we'll ask John John to come and address you as well, okay? Thanks.
2011, I was playing football with club. Played the first couple of National League games under Miko actually, and it was the third game of the league against London, where I basically couldn't run enough. I had signal to go off, and that was the start of a very scary kind of road, which was 2 days later I was in St James's, getting word I had leukemia, which was pretty shocking. Like, to go from playing a county football match 2 days previous to go playing, to going sitting in a bed in St James's listening to those words isn't nice. But the thing they get around from St James's Hospital is fantastic. The positivity, the encouragement, the support from everybody, from whether consultants, doctors, nurses, everyone around. It's fantastic. For Richard to say like that, to raise money first of all is amazing for St James Hospital and for St Luke's. But then the other side of it was 3 months of treatment that I received, the care and support from St James's, to set my goals and targets when you come out of hospital. It's something that people kind of forget about and realise they don't. They come out of hospital and they're happy to walk on the street, which I was for the first month or two as well. But it's then when you set your targets, your goals, which for me were football related, and which Richard has said like that what he wants people to realise is after that you're going to be able to get back to your normal life. So I actually set my goals and my targets that summer, which I wanted, which the doctors had advised me, don't set any targets, because you set a target and you don't reach it, it's going to run you down, it's going to affect you. But I took kind of the opposite. So you set your goals, you set your targets. If you don't reach that goal or target, you're no worse off than you were before you set your target. There's some way towards your target, like that's exactly what I've done. Like I kept working to eventually get back to playing with club, to get back to playing with club the following year, and haven't looked back since. Like, so that's why the whole aim is to prove that after cancer, like it's a big step, your next goal, and I'd always advise anybody, and it's the word I always get out, anybody I talk to, always positive, always positive, always positive, and that's hopefully where the same is going to go with Richard. Like, it's fantastic, and so that's basically what I was asked to do, say my pass of it, and that's what I want to keep driving through, to be positive and set your goals and targets and keep aiming for them.
The important thing realistically here is that there is a life after cancer, that you can fight it, that you can beat it, and these guys are testament to that. So I'm going to introduce our next speaker. I mean, a man that's a legend. He's very shy, very quiet man, doesn't want to talk, he says, right? But he's done his talking on the field of play from so many years, around Nice, around Wicklow, around Kerry. He says he's retired officially, that he's not going to take any team on in 2014. I'm going to put a bet in that, because I'm sure he's been lined up somewhere around the country. He says he loves to drive you from Waterville, no matter where he has to go. Maybe they'll do a job of him in Donegal or someplace like that big, maybe we put him forward as a candidate in Waterford. You always said you wanted to do a hurling job, that you'd make a good candidate as well, you know. So let's give it up for Nick O'Dwyer.
Thank you, Tomas. I told you I didn't want to talk. I'm not great at this game, I can assure you, but if it was football, I'd be well able to do anything in that line. But I suppose cancer is a disease that will have touched most families through the length and breadth of this country. I've no doubt in my mind about that. As a matter of fact, a sister-in-law of mine died of cancer about 4 years ago. And what was done for that lady in St James's in Dublin was unbelievable. And just talking about John McGrath here, I remember well the day that he was playing against London, and he came to the sideline and he said, I can't go on. He was staggering around and we couldn't figure out what was up. And somebody said to me, he must have been in the booze last night or something. But it was proved after that he wasn't in any booze. And I'm delighted to see that he's made a wonderful recovery, and he's now again back playing for Wicklow, an outstanding footballer that he is. But as I said a minute ago, I think this is a wonderful idea. I think this is something that should be well supported by the GAA throughout the length and breadth of the country, not GAA but soccer, rugby, everybody. So I think this has been a wonderful idea. I have no doubt it will be an outstanding success, because at some stage or another, every one of us at some stage will have to go to a hospital somewhere along the line. So I think this is a wonderful idea, and I think it's great. Talking about Polly Shea and that event in Croke Park in '85, that was true, which was a fact actually. But he never mentioned that when McNally went in, the first thing he did, he gave Paddy, touched with an elbow into the face, and Paddy said to him, "I'll deal with you in a few minutes." And he went back into the umpires and he said to the two umpires, "Keep an eye on this now," he said, "because I'm going to deal with this fellow myself." And he did give him a root up on the backside. And about 15 minutes after he was taken off, and the amazing part of it all, when he was going to the sideline, Paddy went all the way into the dugout with him, and he said, "That's the right place for you to be, and stay there now." So I'm delighted to be with you here today, and if I can contribute in any way to move this on, I certainly will. And I'm looking forward to meeting Brian Cody on the sideline. You know, Brian might have played a bit of football, but I can assure you, when I was talking to a few people down in Kilkenny, when they see football down there, they generally cut it up in pieces. And I want to know about football in Kilkenny. But however, this will be an interesting one. I'm delighted to be here today. Joe Loughnane is here, and he's a man that has had his share of sickness and got through it as well. So John, I'm delighted to see that you're back in good health again. Tomas, Cork, you're a wonderful county. Keep playing hurling.
Okay. The next speaker there is a man that has suffered his own fair share of illness over the last number of years as well, and look, he seems to recover very, very well. But I think he got treatment in St James's as well, so he could relate firsthand what it meant about there as well. And he's a great hurling man. Yeah, we might have our little arguments and might have our little spats on TV and stuff like that, but when it comes to events like this, I've seen the man around the country supporting events, massive events like this, and everybody's just so happy to give something back. If we can help over the next number of months get this up off the ground, get people to support it in big numbers, I'm sure Ger Loughnane won't be fun wanting there either. So can I give it Ger Loughnane, please?
That man spent his lifetime to ambush me. Not alone in the Sunday game, but here. He said every word. I said, no. He said, grandson. So he comes up here and announced, one of our speakers will be, and Miko Sensei, Miko the Wire and General Man. Thanks to us. But anyway, listen, the story with me is very like John. John, we must have been there at the same time.
We were, you were a month after me.
A month after, yeah. That's, I just realised when you were saying that at 2011, but I won't go back over all the, it's the very same symptoms as John, totally weak. Out hunting I was, and he was playing football. When we first realised there was something wrong, you go and next thing you're told. I suppose of all the things that happen in your life, in your family life, there are days or moments that you'll never forget. And I'll tell you, the day you're told you have leukemia, because to me it was a total shock. The doctor was telling me I had a virus, or I had a sinus, imagine that, sinus, and they had me grand. But having to know the doctor got in, and next year I was in jail. But anyway, when I was there for 4 treatments, and the treatment lasts about 5 weeks, 45 days roughly. But when I came out the first time, one of our friends in the press there had the bright idea that he'd mentioned that I was dead. Right? He put up on the website that I was dead. So this rumour went all over the country that I was dead. And now, in fairness to the journalist, it was hard to blame him, because it's that out in my own county, funny enough, that someone, this is what happened. After 5 weeks there, you get out for 10 days to build up again, as John would know. You get out to build up again before you come in for the chemotherapy again in the next session. So anyway, the day I left to go home after that first session, somebody rang up the hospital and they said, I'm sorry to say, but he's gone. He's gone. Putting 2 and 2 together he was totally gone. So that's how the rumor started. So there's hard to blame him on the website afterwards that he was dead. But anyway, I was back in for the next session, and I was walking down. You went for it, and you have about 10 days of chemotherapy, and then you wait for your system to crash and then build up again. But anyway, I was allowed out. And I was walking down Henry Street in Dublin one day, and this total stranger walked up to me and said, "Hey," he said, "is yourself?" And I said, "Yeah." Jesus, I said, I knew it couldn't be true. I said, I knew you wouldn't give up that easy, he said. So that was, that's the kind of opinion people get, I suppose, when somebody is in hospital. And when you're finished, like, when you're back again, there are people out there, oh, you're looking well, yeah, how are you feeling? You're looking well. There's a lot of things that happen after that are nearly as disconcerting as while you're having the treatment. But like everybody else who worked with James, I was you were in the Berkeley Walls or College, and you're in isolation there. And the hardest thing about isolation is that you can't go outside that door. And when you're used to being out in the air and out, it's very, very hard to spend 5 weeks there without ever seeing the outside. And especially when you're there in summertime, I suppose, that's the hardest of all, because you long to be out going to matches, and the train just passed just outside the window, and you have, I think, the people going to the All-Ireland semi-finals, and you knew you couldn't get outside the door. So those things are difficult. But as John said, the treatment in James is just, people that work there are absolutely fantastic. They're just, you couldn't praise them enough. And like some of the conditions are, the way the ward is done up, and the small television, you're trying to watch the match woman in the television just a little bit bigger than the size of that photograph down there. And next thing the back of your neck starts to hurt, and you can't keep looking at it all the time. So, I mean, it is difficult while you're there, but the great thing about it is, and this is the message, that I'm delighted this message going out, that the life there is after, when you do recover, and really after about 6 months, when the treatment is over for 5 or 6 months, you're back again. Like, I was on the Sunday game the year I was diagnosed, 2 or 3 weeks before I was diagnosed, and then when it started the following year, I was back on again. So, there are great cures now. There is great hope for everybody who gets cancer now, because the treatments are so good. And it's making people aware, I suppose, that there is, you can get back to your life again afterwards. But I think one of the central things is, the central thing to recovery, in my opinion, is if you have an interest. You have an aim to get back doing something. Apart from the interest of surviving, have an interest in getting back to something. Because when the last thing about me, always I'd be asking, how are the dogs going? Had you them out? Are they, because you were one. I know it's not to say that, but not about the people. I feel worried about the dogs. I have about 15 dogs, and would they get enough exercise, or if they were out hunting, if they were lost, how would they come back? It's crazy things in a way like that. That's what keeps you going. And if you have an interest in football, hurling, or anything else, having an interest is absolutely vital. And then when you get out again, getting back to that's what's crucial. That's what's crucial. And as well as that, a sense of humour is absolutely great as well. But you don't get too down by the whole thing. There are a lot of humorous things. There are brilliant people there, from the people who come in to clean the room, to the consultants, to the nurses, to the fellow the woman who brings the tea. They are all so brilliant in James's, and all have an upbeat air about them. No one is allowed to be feeling sorry for themselves. Have an upbeat air, have a sense of humour, have an interest, and when the minute you're finished, get back to doing what you used to do before. And as we asked, how are you? Actually, yesterday, I was working all day yesterday cutting hedges. Then yesterday evening, myself and another fellow were out with 2 pups. I had 2 and he had 2, and we had 6 dogs out altogether. We couldn't find the dogs. It was dark. I came home at 11:30, and I was out again this morning at 7:15 looking for the dogs. And I'm still missing one, so I have to go back and find them. So, listen, that is it. You get back to normal again. I think your own mental state, your own state of mind is that, and that is the message that you go out. I'm delighted that is part of your message for this fundraising thing. Because often, when people hear and that you have cancer, they're nearly saying, oh yeah, they're nearly afraid. They don't realise it's over. You're back to normal, and on you go again. Now, it's a thrill for me to meet all these fellas up here, and thank you very much to Ross, but I will tell you one story about Nicola the Wire, because he's here in front of me, because you often tell stories about a fella far away. One of the greatest lessons I ever learned was when after winning an All-Ireland was there in '95, and the following year I went down to a thing down in Cork, and Nicola was there. And he said a great thing. One thing he said to me, he wouldn't even realise it, he said, any team, he says, can win an All-Ireland, he says, but it takes a great team to win the second one. And it stuck in my mind. I can still see his face when he said it. It stuck in my mind. And that night coming home, I was so determined to win another All-Ireland. Now, Mika was up then, and he was up in front of the crowd, and he was asked who's going to be All-Ireland next year. You know, it's his favourite thing. Well, he went through everything. He did a tour of Ireland, given him, and all the strengths and everything else. But finally, anyway, he settled. He was in Cork. He settled on Cork. Big round of applause from the crowd. Delighted. So he sat down afterwards, and I said to Michael, "Do you really believe," I said, "that they're going to win the Ireland next year?" He says to me, he named 3 Cork team, the 3 fellas in Cork team. He says, "They drink Lochlear and dry." He says, "They will know all Ireland." But you know, isn't it brilliant to have characters like that involved in it? You know, one of the thrills of sport is not just playing it or anything else. It is all the brilliant people you meet through your involvement in sport. It's fantastic. And you know what? It's brilliant to be alive and brilliant to be back doing all that again. And that's the message that's going out. That's from now until next May when the game is played. That is the message. You can get over it. You can put it behind you, get back to normal, and be even more enthusiastic than you ever before. Okay?
Cheers for a man that didn't want to say any more. But you can also see the positivity that's come over the room this morning. Like, you couldn't get a better launch. If you're launching something, to get legends like Michael Dwyer and John Loughnane in your presence, the 2 lads who have suffered, and I suppose the most important man in the GAA at the moment is our president. He's a Laois man. He's made marvellous inroads since he's come into office, and it's great to see that he's here. I mean, he obviously has a very, very busy schedule, but I mean, if the GAA can roll on behind this and back this initiative and back this over the next number of months, it will be fantastic to drive this forward. So I give you our president, Mr. Liam O'Neill.
The GAA family unites around each other. That's the one great thing about us. I was asked to speak about the importance of GAA in the community, and I'm nervous about doing that because I don't think that we are the important ones. We're actually the beneficiaries, not those who give to communities really. And it's important to say that, and I don't say that in any bad way about our organisation. I've often said that in my own community in Trumra, it's we have the school in the GAA club, hurling club, it's referred to as. The school anchors the community. The GAA club gives it identity. And only much outside of Trumra, we're heard of Trumra, but for the fact that we have a hurling club and we have something to unite around. And in the early days of the organisation, when I go to 125 celebrations, and by the way, there's no such thing as a club that's around 125 years. I've gone to about 40 of them, and it's great because no club actually stayed in existence. They often change the name or dropped out at various stages. But I always say to them, never let the truth spoil a good party. So they celebrate 125 years, often since their inception, because historically we went at the end of the 1890s from having over 1,000 clubs to having 118 at the end of 1892. We almost lost the organisation because of the Parnellite split and the row with the church and the organisation over that. And I've always said to people, there was a couple of attempts lately to drag us into politics to go on one side, and some of our managers went on a campaign, and I said no, stay away from it, for goodness sake, because it'll pull us down. We're part of the community, and we're strong in communities because we stay neutral. We're there for everybody. We're not there for any one group. That's what makes the GAA strong. And the GAA is strong, first of all, the groups who are celebrating 125, who founded their clubs 125 years or more now. The reason they founded clubs was because they were great communities, because they saw something in this fledgling organisation and wanted to be part of it and took a chance. And that's why I'm loath ever to take praise for the GAA being the great community organisation. We are one of the organisations that great community support. I think that's important. You see the way people unite around a cause. And it was staggering last Sunday, after so long away from Croke Park, that so many Cork people came. I was amazed. We're out on the pitch doing, we had a couple of functions to do, like presenting the Midland Spectator. But I looked around and saw this sea of red in Dublin, and it just shows you that people unite around a cause. And Cork hurling wasn't where most of the lads wanted to have been over the last number of years. But the support that came there was absolutely staggering. And I think it did influence what happened at the pitch as well. crowd next weekend, just again to refer to communities and the importance of people in a cause, we're expecting, I think, the greatest crowd ever for an Ireland hurling semi-final next Sunday. And it's absolutely fantastic. We're living in great times, and people have asked me why. Someone said to me recently, I haven't read anything about you in the paper, you haven't said anything for the last couple of months. And I haven't, because the lads know whenever I say anything, I get in trouble. Because it's been put on one way or the other. But I'm letting the games talk this summer. Then the games are talking for us, and they're great. We've never had a good season for hurling in the history of hurling. Last Sunday lifted the hearts of those who wouldn't even have seen hurling before. But I think that game was magic, and it's been a magic summer. And it's come about because of the development over the last couple of decades, but also because we have, and I'm sitting in front of the players here, and some of you have heard me say it before, we have at the moment the best and the most skillful, the most athletic, and the most articulate group of players we've ever had in the organisation. And they're a credit to all of us, to the families, to the communities that come from, to the clubs, and to the entire organisation. And we have people putting in huge effort. Managers put in just an unbelievable effort, backroom team the same, families, the amount of effort put in by families for players is staggering. And that's all done for the community, for the cause, for the country. And sometimes you feel humbled, and I do really genuinely, as Ultra on this organisation, to be head of an organisation where so much voluntary activity goes in. And not everyone can be winners. We know about that in Laois too. But the important thing is that we celebrate being part of it. And I think one of the nicest things ever said about winning was said by Tommy Moran, who's Secretary of Leitrim. So Leitrim wouldn't be a county that would be famed for winning. They had their one win in the 90s. And he said, with due respect to the lads, that Kerry, Cork, and Kilkenny celebrate when we win All Ireland. He says Leitrim celebrate when we win. And I think that's important, that we celebrate every win. And similarly in this campaign, I'm delighted you're winners. And I'm delighted that you're bringing teams of winners to play. You fought that fight and you've beaten cancer. I think that's fantastic. I think that's the message going out from today, is that it's to be beaten. And I just want to say to the press, you know, I meet you regularly enough at launches in Croke Park, and we know that the interviews afterwards, whether it's you get something out of me or you get something out of the players, that becomes the focus of the story. I'm just appealing it today that, you know, if you get interviews from any of the lads, any of our special guests or the players, please don't drown the message of this campaign in that, or don't allow your editors to do that to you or do it to this, because it can be disappointing sometimes when we have a great launch that the story becomes about what they said or the illegal said or whatever. But for this occasion, this is too big. It's too much a good story to be drowned up in that. And I just appeal you, by all means, get your quotes whenever you get them. Please put the focus on this. And I think that the headline on this really, and the line that I take from it is, Ger, it's brilliant to be alive. And that's it. And it's brilliant to be alive. It's brilliant to be here at the launch of something as important as this. We'll throw our weight in behind it in any way, but you have to tell us what support you want. And we'll give that support to the campaign. And we wish it well. And I'm delighted, as Ultra in my own county. I don't get to speak too often in Laois, unfortunately. And believe it or not, this is my first time ever speaking in this room. Usually when I'm brought in here, I'm brought into Niall Handy's office because he wants to have a go at me or something. This is where Laois County Board meet, and it was central to my life at one stage. I don't get to speak in Laois too often. I'm delighted this is a Laois-based campaign. I'm delighted the match will be in Croke Park. I'm delighted to be associated with it. I'm delighted to declare this campaign launched.
I suppose that wraps up the formalities. All that's left for me to say is thank you for everyone for being here. That is a serious positive message. It's great to be live. We have had already to date a summer of Sundays when it comes to GAA. We've seen so much positivity all over the country. If you look from Monaghan to Limerick hurlers, to Kerry footballers, to Cork hurlers last weekend, and I do agree with Liam. I was in Croke Park last weekend. I had the privilege of sitting in the stand around a lot of supporters, and I never witnessed anything like it from a Cork perspective on occasion. And it is amazing what a team can do, what one man can do, how they can unite the county, how they can unite a GAA world that was maybe going a little bit off the rails over the last number of years, and it's fantastic to see. To all the players that are here today, great to see you here, great to see you support something like this, fantastic to see. I'm sure you will lend your support over the next number of months if you're called upon. I think Liam has opened a massive door for Richard and for John going forward with an opportunity to support. He has an idea in mind. He's looking for you to put a proposal. I think he should be running with it very, very quickly, get in there quick. He is giving you an avenue to raise some serious money to help St James and to help St Luke's, but also create a massive awareness. I mean, if this goes out right to the press, goes out right, I'm sure you will have players all over the country who we haven't heard about, who have suffered themselves. It doesn't have to be the Sherlock man, it doesn't have to be the star performer. It can be the small man in the rural club that had all his own difficulties, but we would have heard so much about it. I'm sure these guys will be in contact with you very, very quickly, and I'm sure you will have no problem fitting 15 against 15. These guys would love to be there, and I think that is the big, big message. It isn't about the high profile, this is about the smaller guy. And as players, and something I probably wouldn't have done in the past, or for players themselves, if you do feel ill, or you do feel sick, or you do feel something is wrong with you, we as men have always the habit of saying, here, I'm alright, I'll go to the doctor next week, or I'll wait for a month's time, or I'll wait until after the match. And these guys were caught early. Prognosis, diagnosis was done early. Unfortunately, a lot of people in the past wouldn't have had that, and wouldn't have had the benefit of going to the doctor early. So for players, just pass on that message. There is a lot of help out there. There is a lot of positivity out there. There's a lot of people that can help you out there. So use those opportunities. So again, on behalf of myself, Mark McKay, I'm delighted to be here. I'd like to thank Michael, Sherlock Nan, the two lads, Liam for being here, and then for everybody that has put this together. I think it's a fantastic initiative. Well work pursuing, and we wish it all the best for the future. Okay, so thanks very much for being with us.